see. Am I free? No, this sounds okay. Yeah, those are my big.
I like his prep right now.
Just make those set up. Yeah, yeah.
Brad's not here, and I got nobody to cut for me. I'm taking my I'm taking the $20 for the week away from you.
He was on Jeopardy once.
He was?
Yeah, he's got like one of those weird memories. He remembers everything. I think he'd be a shoo-in, but he didn't win. He was close.
Dude, there's the guy with the photographic memory that's a sports gamer.
Yeah, right?
Like that guy. My friends met him in person in Vegas, and they hung out with him because they all remembered him from Jeopardy. Like, doesn't everybody in Vegas remember him? He's a professional sports guy. My friend's like, I had to take a picture with him because I made a bet that he lost on, so I wanted to take a picture of the winning bet with him. I was like, you're a dick. Military guys. I'll watch for you guys.
That shot day one of her staring at us. It's another plasma.
Just waiting for turn scan.
She's had almost 5 years to work on her poise.
Oh, yeah. Not to mention, this is probably a big split on who feels was guilty.
Where is it, Jerry? You okay? Yeah. No problem. Okay.
Lacey definitely has it.
All right, so this is a 20 CF 364 State versus Lori Phillips appearances.
State of Wisconsin by Andrew Burdick and ABA Jessica Stem. Also, council table is Investigator Fritz Leinfelder.
Morning, Your Honor. Ms. Phillips appears in person with her attorney, Chris Sacker, and with paralegal Wendy Witzke.
Any issues?
Yeah, red light.
Yours is off.
Yeah, is that better?
All right. Okay. Just to forewarn you, I did move over the podium just a couple inches, just so the camera, we're having problems seeing people when you guys moved around, so I gave them a little bit more space. Any other issues we need to talk about from the state's perspective?
Not at this time.
And Mr. Packard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I think the jury is just coming up right now. Again, just before I bring them in, again, we might go a little bit past noon today, and I'll still take a break, and then I have that hearing at 1 o'clock, which is closed. Just to remind everybody it's closed, so please don't walk in between 1 and 1:30. The light outside will turn off once we're done, but give everybody opportunity to leave for that hearing. And then we'll start probably back up at 1:30, 1:45, something like that. Okay, jury's here. Let's bring them in. seated.
I have a friend at Zero Life.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. As I said, we might start early. We're all here and we're all ready to go, so we can get going. I forgot about notification. Everything's okay for notification for this.
For victim contact, Judge? Yes.
Forgot to ask that earlier. I want to call your witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Trevor Naleid to the stand. Could you please state your full name and spell it, please?
My name is Trevor Naleid, Trevor Naleid.
And where are you employed?
I'm employed by the Wisconsin Department of Justice at the State Crime Laboratory in Madison.
And what is your position at the crime laboratory?
I am a senior forensic scientist in the DNA analysis unit.
And how long have you been employed there?
About 12 and a half years.
Please describe the work you do as a forensic analyst or scientist.
I examine evidence for the presence of biological fluids. I then attempt to extract DNA from those items and then make comparisons.
What position is that?
I am a member of our crime scene response unit. I'm a team leader.
And can you describe for the jury what the crime scene response unit is?
It's a voluntary program that anybody can volunteer for. So we have people from all different disciplines, evidence technicians, photographers, DNA, latent prints, etc. It's a two-part process. When you first come on, you start as a photographer. So you undergo an approximately year-long training, basically learning all of the buttons and exactly how to use a camera, manual settings, etc. And then you're basically taking pictures in all sorts of different scenarios, darkness, bright light, and then different types of evidence as well, so like tire tracks, footwear impressions, latent prints. So that's why it takes a year.
Latent prints, that refers to fingerprints that may have been left behind?
Correct.
How long have you been with the crime scene response team?
I started in 2015. I was signed off for photography in 2016, July of 2016.
As part of your position, have you prepared or do you have a statement of qualifications?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Naleid, may I approach and show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 64?
Yes.
Can you tell me what that is, please?
This is my statement of qualifications, otherwise known as a CV.
CV meaning curriculum vitae.
Correct.
And can you describe for the jury your educational background?
I got my bachelor's degree in biochemistry from the University of Wisconsin, LaCrosse, and I have a master's degree from the University of Florida in forensic DNA and serology.
Besides that education, do you have additional training to become a DNA analyst?
Yes, I did.
Can you please describe that training?
Sure. I underwent approximately a year-long internal training program encompassing all aspects of DNA collection. It's a 4-step process, so extraction, getting the DNA off of whatever it came in on, whether it's an item of clothing or a swab. So next step is quantitation, which is the step that tells us how much DNA is there. We use the value from the quant step for amplification, so we know how much we need to amplify the sample. And then the 4th step is typing, where we actually get the profile. After we get the profile, we'll then do the same steps with standards from known individuals in the case, and then compare the profiles at the end. After that, we'll calculate statistics based off of the profiles, and then generate a report. The training itself also included mock court, 2 mock cases, and pretty much it.
So during the year-long training, did you have to, was there any testing, proficiency, knowledge-based before you started working cases?
Yes, there's a competency test, which is 2 different cases. For that, once you're signed off as a DNA analyst, you undergo proficiency testing twice a year.
During the process of training, can you estimate how many DNA samples you processed while in training?
Approximately 175.
I'm sorry, going back to exhibit number 64, your statement of qualifications, believe that particular copy was prepared in 2020. Does that appear to be accurate?
Yes.
Is the information contained on there accurate as to your qualifications in 2020?
Yes.
And is it still accurate today, or what modifications or additions would you make?
This list has how many times we testified in court as well as our training. So I've undergone a few continuing education events or trainings. So other than that and the total number of court testimonies, I think it's pretty much the same.
Your Honor, I would move for admission of exhibit 64.
No objection.
Received.
Does your laboratory hold any accreditations?
Yes.
Can you say what it is and what it means?
Sure. We are accredited under the ISO 17025-2017 international accreditation. Essentially, it's a voluntary program that any crime lab can undergo to show that it meets established standards. They're what controls our proficiency testing.
And what does proficiency testing mean?
It's tests that we have to do twice a year just to show that we get the results that are expected. So we ship off our results to a company that verifies that we got the expected results to show that we know what we're doing, essentially.
Are there any other inspections or quality assurance steps as part of this accreditation?
I don't know the exact time frame, but I believe we have an in-person audit every 4 years, and then we do an internal audit every other year. Every 2 years, I should say, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I am showing you what's been marked as States Exhibit 65 and 66. Can you identify those for me?
Yes, I can. These are the certificates of accreditation from the ANAB National Accrediting Board.
And are these accreditations held by your laboratory currently?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I would move for admission of Exhibit 65 and 66.
Is there a distinction between 65 and 66?
Oh, 65 is a general certificate of accreditation. 66 is the scope, meaning the areas that they're certified.
Okay. Any objection?
No, Judge.
Will be received.
So, since receiving your training as a DNA analyst, approximately how many DNA cases have you worked?
Over 500.
And how many DNA samples have you processed as a trained analyst?
Over 2,200.
And are you able to estimate how many times you have performed duties on the crime scene response team?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's so variable. Sometimes you can go 3 months without getting called out. Sometimes you get called out 4 times in a week.
So you can't estimate, but you've done it multiple times.
Yeah, I would say I've been to at least 50 scenes. I know I've been to 27 different counties for scenes.
And have you previously testified as an expert witness in courts of law?
Yes, I have.
Your Honor, I would ask that the court recognize Mr. Naleid as an expert in both DNA and in crime scene collection.
I mean, technically, the court does not recognize experts. It's up to them. Is there any objection as them testifying as experts?
Judge, I guess solely within the scope of any notice that was filed by the state.
For the limited purpose, yes.
So were you called, in your capacity as a crime scene response team member, were you called to LaCrosse County at a time in 2019 to perform, to examine a vehicle that was in evidence at the LaCrosse County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, I was.
Can you describe what was requested of you and what you did?
We were informed that an individual had notified police that there was a domestic incident the night before. She had returned to her house and found him in a snowbank. The vehicle, which was, I believe, a 2019 red Dodge Ram Rebel truck, was seized, and we were to look at the underside of that for any possible evidence.
And can you describe for the jury what general process you as a crime scene response team member takes when examining a vehicle in the manner that you were asked to do and the day you responded was March 19th of 2019?
Correct.
So what is the general process that you would do to examine a vehicle?
Usually we have a team lead and a photographer. Depending on the complexity of the scene, we may have 1 or 2 additional people. In this case, it was just myself and a photographer. The first thing that they'll do is take overall photographs of the vehicle as is, so every single direction around it, and then anything that you can see underneath. In this case, we were only asked to look at the exterior of the vehicle, so we did not do any interior investigation. Typically, we will inventory all items that are inside. We did not do that in this case.
Do you have any procedures or any tools to make sure that you don't forget any steps in your process?
We have a sort of checklist that we kind of go through.
And did you fill one out on this date?
Yes, I did.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 67. Can you tell me what that is, please?
Yes, this is the technical review checklist. So when I completed the report, this is actually for the photo log. So the photographer will actually do a photo log of each individual picture and make a short description of what the picture is. And so as the team lead, I was the technical reviewer for this.
And so you were the technical reviewer, and those are your initials on this document?
Correct.
And is there anything about this document that indicated that procedures were not followed in terms of documenting the vehicle photographically?
No.
Your Honor, I would move for admission of Exhibit 67.
No objection.
Received.
Mr. Naleid, I just handed you exhibits number 68 and 69. Can you describe for the court what Exhibit 68 is?
Exhibit 68 is a printout of the photos that were taken by the photographer, Sammy Delphos.
And you were the team leader on the date that those photographs were taken?
Correct.
And those photographs, do they fairly and accurately depict the Dodge Ram pickup truck and the items you located during your examination?
Yes, they do.
Does it appear that the photographs have been altered in any way?
No.
I did also hand you Exhibit 69, which is a USB drive with a label, copy of, I think it says Crime Lab photos, something like that. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And were you made aware that that's an exact copy of the paper printout that you have?
Yes, I was.
Your Honor, I would move for admissions of Exhibits 68 and 69.
No objection.
Received.
Permission to publish to the jury.
Go ahead.
So this is just a title slide describing the following photos. Is that accurate?
Correct, yep.
This second photograph, can you describe what it's depicting, please?
We call that a photo slate, and it just has our case number, the date, the location, and then the initials of the photographer.
Is there any significance to the rulers on the sides or the colors at the bottom?
The colors are for the color correction that our photography unit is to make sure that everything is as it was viewed in person. The scale is for if we need to scale any photographs, or sometimes we'll put other scales next to items just to show the exact size of them, so that if pictures are either enlarged or made smaller, that it still shows the same scale.
What is this a photograph of?
This would be a photograph of the VIN number of the vehicle.
VIN standing for vehicle identification number?
Correct.
And is that a unique number to each vehicle that's manufactured?
Yes, it is.
And why do you take a picture of that?
Just to show that we are examining the vehicle that is on the search warrant. We'll check the VIN inside the vehicle as well as the search warrant to make sure that they match.
And you did that in this case?
Yes.
Can you describe what we are seeing in this particular photograph?
This is the front driver's corner of the vehicle in question.
And you mentioned earlier that you take pictures of the outside to document its condition.
Correct.
Was there did you note anything specific when examining the exterior of the vehicle?
Just that it was dirty, had a lot of road soot on it, but other than that, it was basically a brand new vehicle. Very good condition.
Just briefly describe what we're seeing here.
It would be the driver's side of the vehicle in question.
And you can see it basically from the side view mirror to the rear taillight.
Correct.
And what is this?
This would be the same side of the truck, just from the back corner, back driver's side corner.
And next photo. And what is this?
Slightly angled view of the same thing, just showing the back left corner as well as part of the tailgate and trailer hitch of the truck.
Now, I'd like to just ask you a question about what we're seeing here. On the left side, or I'm sorry, the right side of the screen, do you recall what that is? The white object that's all along the right side of the screen?
The garage, I mean, you're talking about the garage door?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And do you happen to recall, like, in what manner this vehicle was stored? Was it secured?
It was in the evidence storage unit of the sheriff's office. Yes.
And so that is a secured area?
Yes.
Okay. That's can you please describe what this photograph is depicting?
This would be the rear passenger side of the same truck looking toward the front of the vehicle.
And this photograph?
Same side of the vehicle, right side, passenger side, just more towards the front, a little bit of the rear passenger door as well as the front passenger door.
And what is this angle?
This would be from the front right passenger corner looking at the vehicle.
So after you took those photographs around the vehicle, did you take the vehicle anywhere else to examine it?
Yes.
And where did you take it?
The vehicle was brought across the street to D's, I don't know the correct full name, but it was D's Auto Care or something similar to that.
Is that the mechanic or repair shop that's right next to the area where this vehicle was stored?
Yes, it's basically just across the street.
And how was this vehicle transported there?
It was driven over.
And did you have any concerns about evidence integrity driving it for that short distance?
No.
Can you explain to the jury why not?
I was informed, well, first of all, we're looking at this vehicle approximately a month after the initial incident happened. It had been driven since then. I was informed that there was a snowstorm the night that this happened, so it would be expected that the roads would be wet. It would not be surprising to have any evidence washed away. The day that we came up to look at it, it was dry and we were just going across the street. So it's reasonable to expect that if we were going to lose evidence, it would have been gone already at that point. And I didn't think going across the street would any additional evidence.
You mentioned that the vehicle had been driven prior to this. Were you informed by whom?
Section of calls for hearsay. Sustain.
So when you got to D's, auto care specialists, how did you further examine the vehicle?
The truck was put on a lift and lifted up in the air so we could get underneath it and look at the underside better.
And this is image 10 from your photographs. Does this depict the underside of the vehicle and the lift?
Yes, it does.
Can you just point out which part is the lift?
The yellow parts on the bottom left and bottom right corners are the lift.
And can you explain what the jurors are seeing in this particular photo?
Sure. This would be a picture from the rear of the vehicle. You can see the spare tire, and then the rear axle and the rear tires.
Now, did you or the photographer use any specialized equipment in doing your examination of this vehicle?
Yes, we did.
Can you explain what specialized equipment you used?
We used what's called an alternate light source. It's you can change the wavelength of the lights depending on what you're looking for, so it's used for a wide variety of things. One of them being hairs and fibers.
So would a juror or I guess somebody who's not in the scientific field be familiar with something like that, like a black light to illuminate body fluids somewhere?
Yes, that's another thing that it's used for is detecting body fluids.
And also, in the process of taking these photographs, did you have a method for marking which photographs may be significant for your findings?
Could you expand on that?
Sure. Let me ask this question. Did you find any items underneath this vehicle?
Yes, we did.
And when you found those items, what did you do?
We would put typically on a normal scene, you would put a tent marker down, which is just a marker with a number on it. In cases like this where you can't just set a marker down because you're underneath the vehicle, we'll put a sticker with a number on it.
So you said this is the underneath side of the vehicle. I don't see any stickers, so this does not indicate you found anything in this particular. Is that accurate?
This would be before we actually started marking items of evidence, so this is an expansion of the overall photographs that we took while it was in the evidence storage unit.
Okay, thank you. Next photograph, please. Can you describe what this picture depicts?
This is also the underbody of the vehicle with a skid plate on the left side.
That's the long black ridged object.
Correct.
And what's in the middle?
Right here would be the drive shaft of the vehicle.
Next photograph, please. And what does this depict?
This would be the underside of the vehicle from the front looking toward the rear. The drive shaft that we just talked about right here.
Next photo, please. And what is this?
This is basically the same picture, just taken a couple steps back. So it's from the front looking towards the rear of the vehicle, underbody.
Is there a reason why the body of the vehicle looks white at the top?
I don't know why that is, no.
And these photographs were taken all together, and you did the technical checklist, so you are certain that this vehicle displayed is the same?
Yes.
Next photo, please. What does this depict?
This appears to be just behind one of the wheels of the vehicle, the running board.
I'm going to be describing this, I guess, based on, position. The tire that we see in the right, is that the front or the rear of the vehicle? Can you tell?
I believe it is the front.
Next photograph, please. What does this picture depict?
It appears to be the rear of the vehicle with the muffler. Rear right side.
Please. And what does this show?
This would be just behind the front driver's side wheel with half of the wheel and then the running board.
The next photograph, please. And what does this show?
That also appears to be the front of the vehicle, the front right passenger wheel.
Next photo, please. And what does this show?
This is similar to the picture 2 pictures ago, the front driver's side wheel with running board.
Next picture, please. And what does this show?
Here's it's the front driver's side tire, the front bumper.
Next, please. And what does this show?
The rear driver's side tire with the running boards.
And next photograph, please. And what is this showing?
The rear driver's side tire with the back bumper and muffler.
Next photo, please. And what is this showing?
This would be one of the tires. I'm unsure which one, just by looking at this picture.
Is there something that would help you? That's okay. And it's,
Yeah, I don't
this
know.
is still just general overview, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Next photo, please. Can you explain what this is?
It appears to be the same tire that was just taken without the illumination in the middle.
Next photo, please. Can you explain what this is, please?
Oh, those are the tent marker, or the sticker markers that I was talking about before. So that would be the first item that we marked.
Did you take notes as you located items?
I did, yes.
And what sort of things do you note when you're doing the processing of the evidence?
What it is, how long it is, color. Typically, that's it. What it looks like, I guess.
Now, do you recall, so in this photograph you have the marker that some evidence was found. Do you recall what was found here with item 1?
I don't remember specific items. I know generally all items that we actually collected were apparent hairs or apparent fibers, and there was one possible fabric imprint. Would something, would your receipt of physical evidence that was prepared refresh your recollection as to what is depicted in item with this photograph? Yes, it would.
Any of what's been marked as Exhibit 70? Is that your receipt of physical evidence?
Yes, it is.
Does that refresh your recollection as to what is depicted with item sticker 1?
Yes, it does.
What is depicted in this photograph?
That was an apparent hair near the front right passenger tire, brown in color.
And in this particular photograph, are you able to see that hair?
No.
Now, when you find an item like this, hair, or you mentioned fibers, can you describe for the jury what your process is to document and collect it?
We'll first put that sticker on there. take photographs of it. Kind of hard to see in this picture, but there's a very small scale underneath the number so that you can do what we talked about before, where it will stay the same size relative to the size of the picture. For collection purposes, then we'll take a sterile tweezers. We have plastic ones. We also have metal ones that will use a 10% bleach solution to clean to make sure that it's sterile in between uses. And then we will take the hair or fiber and stick it to the sticky part of a Post-it note. Those work very well because the tack on them is enough to hold it in place, but not enough to typically destroy the hair or fiber, whatever it is. We'll then fold the Post-it note onto itself and then put that into a larger package, evidence tape seal it, initial it, label it, and then hand it over to whichever officer is going to be taking it.
Is that process completed for each item recovered, so they're separately packaged and sealed?
Yes.
How do you ensure that there is no contamination on the sticky notes or Post-it note before you use that?
It's only used one time ever, so once we use one, we don't reuse it, we'll throw it out.
Next slide, please. Can you describe what's in slide 25, please?
I believe that is the same number 1 marker, just from a different angle.
And is there a different light source being used as well?
It looks like the flash maybe was not directed at the actual item in this photo.
Are you able to see the hair in this particular photograph?
I don't believe so.
Next slide, please. Can you please describe what this is?
That would be unraveling black electrical tape near the axle on the front passenger side of the vehicle.
Why did that catch your attention?
I'm not a car expert, but for the truck being less than a year old, I just mark things down or make note of things that just didn't look like they should. Essentially, the electrical tape was unraveling a little bit. Whether or not that had to do with anything, not for me to determine. I'm not an expert, so I just marked it.
And did you collect that item?
We did, yes.
Okay. And that was item number 2?
Correct.
And how did you package that?
I do not know off the top of my head. Okay. If it was a standard item of evidence, which it was, I would assume we put it in an envelope or a small brown bag, and then evidence tape sealed it.
Next slide, please. And so can you describe what's depicted in photo 27?
That just appears to be a zoomed in photo of what we were just talking about with the electrical tape and then with the number 2 sticker applied.
Next photo, please. What are we looking at here in Exhibit 28?
So this is a view of the underside with the drive shaft right here and then a skid plate.
What is a skid plate?
Skid plate, usually metal. It protects the underside of the car, so if you run over rocks or something large, it's not going to rip apart the bottom of the vehicle.
And next slide, please. And what is this a photograph of?
That is a photograph of the drive shaft of the vehicle.
Next photograph, please. So I see there's a number on this. Can you describe, or what is depicted in this particular photograph?
That is marker number 3, which we have written down as fibers near the top of the drive shaft.
And are you able to see fibers in these photographs?
I don't see them, no.
Now, you talked about equipment and alternate light sources and things. So, based on your experience in recovering evidence from crime scenes or objects, is it unusual to not see small items in photographs?
No, it's not unusual at all.
Next photo, please. And can you describe photo 31, please?
It's a zoomed in photo of the previous one. So marker number 3, fibers from the top of the drive shaft.
Next photo, please. This is photograph 32. Can you explain what we're looking at to the jury, please?
Slightly washed out, but that's marker number 4. It's the front of the gas tank. There was a possible fabric imprint on it, so we marked it. And then you can see the skid plate underneath here as well.
What do you mean by fabric imprint?
Again, I'm not an expert. I don't know. Maybe it was something from the factory, but to me, it looked like there were maybe some striations consistent with like corduroy or jean material.
Judge, I guess I'm going to object. It's beyond the scope of any expert notice, and particularly if he's particularly foundation, if he's acknowledged that this is not a subject of expertise.
Sustain, the testimony will be struck. Go ahead.
Can we be heard?
No, go on. He's not an expert in this type. He just said that. Move on.
Next photograph, please. And I'm sorry, what is the item number? What is on the sticker? Or the item 4?
Item 4 has the scale underneath it, and then this is just the same as the previous photo, just better exposure.
And is that's the gas tank I think you previously stated?
Correct.
Next photo, please. That's showing nothing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it appears to be a flash misfire.
All right.
Just to keep it, we don't erase pictures, because then if this one's missing and you have the one before it and the one after it, questions might arise on where that picture is. So we keep everything in regardless of if it's a good picture or not. So it appears to be a flash misfire.
Next photograph, please. And this again is showing the gas tank with the number 4 evidence marker.
Correct.
Next photo, please. Could you describe this photo?
Same picture again. Number 4 on the gas tank.
Now, are you using, can you explain the difference in the qualities between each of these photographs? Why do they look a little different?
Sometimes it's more beneficial to take multiple photos from different angles of items, specifically latent prints or footwear patterns. You can see different aspects of the actual ridge of it from different angles. This appears to be only using the flash from the camera. We have a cord that we can connect the flash to the camera, so it's not just connected to the top like you typically see. So the photographer may move the flash around, keeping the camera in the same area. So different areas will be illuminated in different photos.
And next photo, please. this is another view of the same item.
Correct.
Next photo, please. And again, this is another view of the same item.
Correct.
Next photo. This is another view of the same item.
Correct. Yes.
Is there any difference with the light source, or what? Why is the quality of this particular photograph different?
I would assume it's because of what we had just talked about, where the flash would be moved around. I just happened to look this way, went this angle.
Next photo, please. Actually, can we go back? Thank you. So can you just point out the area that caught your interest on this particular photograph? Thank you. Next photo. What does this photograph depict?
Marker number 5 is right there, and that was an apparent hair from the front passenger suspension bar.
And was that collected in the same way that you described with the Post-it note and sealing in an envelope?
Yes, it was.
Next photograph, please. And what does this depict?
It's a zoomed-in version of the previous photo with marker number 5.
Next photo, please. And can you tell me what this depicts?
Kind of hard to see, but marker number 6 is right here. So this is the drive shaft of the vehicle, the rear end of the drive shaft, and that was an apparent fiber on the weight on the rear end of the drive shaft. An apparent fiber on a weight. These little things right here.
But W-E-I-G-H-T?
Correct. Yeah, on the rear end of the drive shaft.
So you pointed out with the laser pointer these square objects that are applied to the drive shaft.
Yes.
Are they? Could you tell if they were fastened onto the drive shaft somehow?
I don't know exactly how, but yes, they're fastened to it.
Next photograph, please. What does photograph 43 show?
That is a zoomed-in photo of the previous one, marker number 6, with the fiber on the drive shaft.
Again, 2 questions. There appears to be 3 weights. Do you recall which weight from which you recovered the fiber?
The sticker would be on the same weight that the item was collected from. We try to get it as close as possible to it where we can still take photographs in the same field of view. So it would be the weight that the number 6 sticker is actually on.
And again, are you able to see the fiber in this particular photograph?
No.
Next photo, please. What does this depict?
That is the skid plate underneath the gas tank after being removed. There's marker number 7. There.
So what did you locate that was significant to you on that skid plate?
Marker 7 was an apparent fiber on the top of the rear skid plate.
Next photograph, please. Can you depict or describe this, please?
It's a zoomed-in photo of the previous one, marker number 7, the apparent fiber on top of the rear skid plate.
Next photo, please. This photograph, number 46, what does this depict?
Marker number 8, right here, is 2 apparent hairs from the driver's step. So it's the driver's door right above it.
And did you collect those together?
Yes, we did.
Is there any concern about collecting them together?
No, sometimes we'll take representative samples if there's multiple items in close proximity. We'll collect them as one item, so that's what happened in this case.
Next photograph, please. Can you describe this?
It's a zoomed-in version of the previous photo, marker number 8, which is 2 apparent hairs from the driver's step.
Next photo, please. And this is another view of the same thing.
Correct.
Next photo, please. And again, this is another photograph of marker 8 where the 2 hairs were found.
Correct.
Next photo. And this is also a different angle. Or I see, is there something else here?
Yeah, marker 8 that we just talked about, but you can also see marker number 9 here, which was an apparent fiber from the side of the front skid plate.
Next photo. And that was photograph 50. Next photo, please. Photograph 51, can you explain what we're seeing here?
It's a zoomed-in photo of the previous one, which is marker number 9, an apparent fiber from the side of the front skid plate.
In which, strike that. Next photo, please. And so this is the end of the photographs that were taken?
Correct. They're called index prints, where the end will just have thumbnails of all the pictures.
Now, once you had once you collected all these items, and I think I asked this before, but you followed the same process that you described with the sticky pad and the envelope and the sealing tape?
Correct, for each item, yes.
Once you were done collecting it, what did you do with it?
We write what's called, well, it's an evidence receipt. So it's just a list of all of the items we collected, the marker number, and then what it is. And then we will turn it over to an officer at the scene, whoever is investigating the incident.
And in this case, does your receipt of physical evidence indicate who you turned the items over to?
Yes, it does.
Who was that?
It was Captain John Zimmerman.
And did you sign this receipt?
Yes, I did.
Did you prepare a report, a narrative report about the processing of the scene as well?
Yes, I did. Scene being the vehicle.
Now, after excuse me. What's the number of the receipt?
70.
70? Your Honor, I would move for receipt of Exhibit 70.
No objection for the purposes used.
Be received.
Now, later, were you requested to perform any analysis of items that you recovered from the underside of the truck?
Yes, I was.
And can you describe what type of analysis that you had performed?
I attempted DNA analysis on the apparent hairs.
And in the course of that process, do you prepare a report?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 71 for identification. Can you tell me what it is?
This would be my confidential report of laboratory findings dated June 19th, 2019.
Now, you described this briefly earlier. What does it take to perform a DNA analysis on items? Let me ask this way. What was submitted to you for DNA analysis?
Item I, an apparent hair near the front passenger tire. Item L1, an apparent hair from the front passenger suspension bar. Item L2, which was another of the same, apparent hair from the front passenger suspension bar. O1 was an apparent hair from the driver's step. O2 was the other hair from the driver's step. And item Q was a dried blood standard reportedly collected from Mark Phillips at autopsy.
Now, you described the process of performing DNA analysis earlier. Is that the process that you performed in this particular case?
Yes, it is.
And what was the result of your DNA analysis of these items?
During the second step, the quant step, no human DNA was detected from any of the hairs, so it stopped at that step. There was no amplification or typing.
Now, was it surprising to you to not find DNA in the apparent hairs?
Objection beyond the scope of the expert notice.
Overruled if it's part of his analysis.
Hairs are notoriously hard to get DNA out of. Any DNA from hairs typically comes from the root, so if there's not a root there, then there's a very slim likelihood that you're actually going to get a DNA profile.
And were your test results peer-reviewed?
Yes.
And is your report, which I believe is 71, is that an accurate report of your findings?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I would move for admission of Exhibit 71.
No objection.
You received?
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Crosse?
Thank you.
Could I get exhibits 508 and then 70 and 71, please?
I think they're up here.
Yeah, I do, sorry.
All right. Good morning, sir. So I want to start kind of with how you handle scenes like this. You handle sensitive forensic evidence for a living. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And sensitive forensic evidence can be something like hair or fiber evidence, right?
Correct.
It can be DNA evidence.
Correct.
It can be evidence of body fluids or other applications of body fluids.
Yes.
It can be any number of minute bits of evidence, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And in your field of practice, it's important to be very cognizant of cross-contamination of that evidence. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because it doesn't take much to contaminate a piece of evidence. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And contamination can take many forms, correct?
Yes.
It can take the form of losing some evidence in the process of inadvertently not preserving it or handling it in a way that causes evidence loss, right?
Yes, correct.
It can take the form of adding evidence that wasn't present before the evidence was collected.
Correct.
Or it can take the form of altering the evidence in terms of how it was positioned or in what manner it was presented at the time of collection.
Yeah.
And as a rule, as an analyst in the lab, for instance, you have very strict protocols to prevent cross-contamination. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, for instance, when you're doing DNA analysis, you're going to wipe down and sterilize your workstation between every single sample that you analyze, right?
Correct.
Because something as simple as a colleague sneezing across the room could contaminate whatever sample you happen to be testing, right?
That's correct.
And it's sometimes more difficult to prevent cross-contamination in the field. Would you agree?
Yes, for sure.
However, every reasonable effort should be taken to prevent cross-contamination of evidence while it's handled in the field. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And I assume that, I know for a fact that this is not your first vehicle case, right?
Correct.
In the course of examining vehicles, it's fairly common to preserve that vehicle on the back of a flatbed and take it to an evidence lockup or a garage or someplace for an examination, correct?
Correct, yes.
You do it that way because when the vehicle's on a flatbed, it's not coming into contact with whatever else might be in the road. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Wisconsin roads, particularly in LaCrosse, are not particularly well known for being smooth, easy to drive on roads, right?
That's correct.
And if you're driving a vehicle, even over something as simple as a pothole, you can have cross-contamination with water, with substances on the road, with gravel, anything else that could come into contact with that vehicle. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you arrived at the Sheriff's Department on March 19th of 2019, your initial photographs were of this vehicle inside of the Sheriff's Department evidence garage, right?
That's correct.
And you wanted to get a look underneath the vehicle on a lift, right?
Yes.
And the decision was made to take that truck to D's Auto Body. Is that correct?
Yes.
And at that point, was there any discussion of having D's bring their flatbed over to the Sheriff's Department, bringing the vehicle across the street so that you could avoid any cross-contamination in the process of driving that vehicle?
Objection, Your Honor. Assumes facts, not in evidence.
No, there was testimony that was driven over. Go ahead.
Well,
It was of assumed facts that was driven over. Go
except
ahead. And
that
he
there was a flatbed available at
overruled.
D's.
Go ahead.
Was there any discussion about getting a flatbed to transport the truck over?
I do not recall that conversation.
My understanding of your testimony on direct was that this was just a matter of convenience, that it would be quicker to drive the vehicle rather than place it on a flatbed.
I don't know that that was the determining factor, but yes, it would have been easier to just drive it across the street.
And ultimately, the decision was made to just drive it across the street, knowing that there's a risk of contaminating or deteriorating the evidence on the underside of that truck.
Correct.
Now, I want to talk to you about the fibers themselves that you collected from the underside of the vehicle here. And I'm going to publish Exhibit 70, which has already been received. All right, Mr. Naleid, is this a zoomed-in version of your handwritten notes of the evidence that you collected in the course of this examination?
Yes, it is.
And I'm going to start with item number 1, the apparent hair near the front passenger tire, brown in color. You used the term apparent hair, Mr. Naleid, is that correct?
Correct.
Can we take that to mean that you're not making a scientific conclusion that what you collected is even a hair?
Exactly, yes.
And items tend to collect underside of vehicles on a regular basis just by nature of driving. Is that fair?
Yes, that's possible.
We saw a whole bunch of, I guess, grunge and grit and dirt on the underside of this vehicle, right?
Yes.
And it's not uncommon for a vehicle, particularly in Wisconsin, to look like that on the underside. Is that fair?
Correct, yes.
It's also not uncommon for apparent hairs or fibers to collect on the underside of a vehicle, right?
I guess that's fair, yeah.
And when you collect a fiber or an apparent hair like this, you agree that you have no idea when it was deposited underneath the vehicle. Is that fair?
That's correct.
You have no idea in what manner it was deposited.
Correct.
You have no manner in whether, or you have no idea and whether it was the process of transferring from another source or from an original collection by the vehicle driving on the driveway or driving on the roadway.
That is correct.
You have no idea whether or not the source comes from a mechanic or a technician working underneath the underside of an auto body.
Correct.
And just because you find an apparent hair or an apparent fiber in a location like item number 1, doesn't mean that that's where it was originally affixed to the vehicle. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Now, when you were dealing with apparent hairs, you agree that we're unable to distinguish in this case whether we're talking about human hairs or animal hairs?
That is correct.
We're unable to distinguish whether or not we're talking about a biological hair from a human or an animal or a synthetic fiber. Is that correct?
Correct.
And we also have plant fibers to deal with as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
So your job here is just to collect these, say kind of what it looks like, and then forward them on for analysis. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So the black electrical tape, item number 2, you testified that it just looked a little bit out of place to you. Is that correct?
Correct.
You have no indication that this tape was collected or deposited in the course of any collision on February 22nd of 2019. Is that correct?
Correct.
Could just be a mechanic working on part of the electrical system or whatever that is.
Yes.
Same thing with the number 3. Now, you noted that they were suspected fibers. Is that correct?
Yes.
And item number 3.
Not how they're noted.
I can rephrase.
Go ahead.
You noted fibers near the top of the drive shaft. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You did not note what type of suspected fibers these were. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, unsure of whether or not this is human, animal, synthetic, or plant-based fibers, correct?
Correct.
You just collected them because you were tasked with collecting any possible evidence underneath the vehicle.
Correct.
Item number 4 we've covered during your direct. Item number 5, an apparent hair from the front passenger suspension bar. Again, Mr. Naleid, you agree that you wrote the term apparent hair because you're not scientifically certain whether it's a hair or not, correct?
Correct.
Same thing with item number 6. Well, let me back up. Item number 6 says apparent fiber on weight of rear end of drive shaft. Is that correct?
Correct.
And this was were you involved in the transmission of evidence at all from your analysis to Ruth Hank at your laboratory?
I packaged things up and then handed them over. That's the extent of me touching any fibers related to this.
But you personally saw the placement of this fiber when it was photographed and collected. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I'm going to have a couple exhibits marked. This is in the state's PowerPoint page. Already been admitted in full, Your Honor, or in the state's complete collection of exhibits. I would offer 511.
Can you, they have image numbers on them? Is there a way you can tell us what each one is?
Sure. 511 is the image number ending with underscore 0042. 512 ends with underscore 0043.
Thank you.
And Mr. Naleid, I'm move to publish 511, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
Go ahead.
So, loud again. The photo where we have kind of the Batman style lighting on exhibit number 6 there, right?
Yes.
And is exhibit number 6, you can see the photograph, or you can see the exhibit sticker in this photograph?
Slightly, yes, right in the middle.
And is that the location on the drive shaft that exhibit number 6 was collected from? Right on the weight where the exhibit sticker is?
Yes.
And would you agree that this is towards the rear end of the drive shaft of the vehicle?
Yes.
show you Exhibit 512 now. It's a little bit closer view. Can I assume from the location of the exhibit sticker approximately in the middle of that weight that the fiber was approximately in the middle of that weight?
I don't know off the top of my head where exactly on the weight the actual fiber was.
And you're aware that this apparent fiber was transmitted to Ms. Hank at the crime lab for further analysis?
Yes.
Going back to Exhibit 70. We have an apparent fiber at number 7 on the top of the rear skid plate, is that correct?
Correct.
And again, you say apparent fiber because you're not certain exactly what it is, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And not certain exactly when or in what manner it was deposited.
Correct.
Same thing for the 2 apparent hairs depicted in Exhibit number 8,
Correct.
as well as the apparent fiber from the front skid plate on Exhibit number 9.
Correct.
All right. So, Mr. Naleid, I want to talk to you about your DNA analysis in this matter. So, you testified, and I take no issue with your testimony, that it's difficult sometimes to get DNA from the shaft of the hair, correct?
Correct.
However, sometimes you're able to extract human DNA from the root of the hair, is that correct?
Correct.
And in this case, you took a cutting of a sample, item I or I1, is that correct?
I believe that's correct. If I can.
I'm going to publish Exhibit 71. All right. Is that correct, that you took a cutting of an apparent root in item I?
That's correct. Anytime we take cuttings or swabbings from a parent item, we have to what we call sub-designate it. So the main item would be the apparent hair, and then the cutting we took from that would be I1.
Okay. And after analyzing that apparent hair root designated as item I1, is it correct that you did not detect the presence of human hair or human DNA?
Correct.
And we can't even conclude from these results that the hairs were human. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's fair.
And we certainly can't conclude that they belong to Mark Phillips, correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. Naleid, I want to talk to you about the exterior condition of the truck briefly. Would you have noted any apparent damage to the vehicle from, in any respect?
Yes.
And you're taking a very fine-tuned approach to examining this vehicle, right?
Correct.
I mean, you're looking at this with magnifying devices, right?
On occasion. I don't know that we did in this case.
You're looking at it with alternate light sources?
Correct.
And I should ask you, an alternate light source, is that what's commonly referred to in layman's terms as a black light?
Yes.
And you're using that because a black light can help you detect trace amounts of evidence, right?
That's correct.
One trace, or one type of trace evidence that a black light can help you detect is possible blood, right?
Correct.
And you examined this vehicle with an alternate light source for the presence of possible blood, is that correct?
I don't believe we looked for blood with the ALS.
Well, did you use the ALS in the course of examining the underside of the vehicle?
Yes, we did.
And had you noticed the presence of possible blood, that's certainly something you would have noted, correct?
Yes.
You would have collected that?
Yes.
And can we assume that you did not detect in the course of your examination any possible blood?
That's correct.
Now, you described the truck as somewhat dirty, is that correct?
Yes,
In other words, didn't look like it had recently been through a car wash, right?
correct.
And your understanding was that this truck had been stored inside of the Sheriff's Department garage since it was seized on February 22nd to the point of your examination on March 19th?
Correct.
So I'm going to get a couple of exhibits marked here. Naleid, you've been with the crime lab since, you said 2015?
2011.
2011.
Crime scene response since 2015.
All right. And I assume that you've lived in Wisconsin at least that long?
Yeah, my whole life.
So you're familiar with the type of salt film or just scum that builds up on the sides of our cars during the wintertime. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you a couple of exhibits here. 514. I'll show you exhibit 514 first. Does that photograph look familiar to you, sir?
Yes, it does.
Does that depict the condition of the Dodge Ram on the date that you examined it?
Yes, it does.
And would that photograph have been taken by the technician assisting you?
Yes.
I'm showing you exhibit 514. Does that similarly appear to be from the date of your examination of the truck?
Yes, it does.
This was taken at the Sheriff's Department lockup. Is that correct?
Correct.
Both of these photos, right?
Yes.
All right. Offer 513, 514.
Can we give an image number too? on this?
Yes, Your Honor, 513 is underscore 0004. 514 is underscore 0005.
Okay. Any objection to being published? I think they were done. Go ahead.
Objection.
Publishing 513. All right. Mr. Naleid, I'm going to direct your attention to the area behind the driver's side passenger cab. Do you see, well, let me ask you first, do you see the presence of kind of that salt film that tends to accumulate on vehicles?
Yes, I do.
And do you see an area behind the driver's side rear door where that film appeared to have been wiped or marked in some respect?
It appears that in this picture, yes.
All right. And is that something that typically you're going to document on a scene like this?
Typically, yes.
Were you given any information about the nature or the mechanics of the alleged altercation that had occurred on February 22nd of 2019 before your examination?
No.
All right. I am going to publish Exhibit 4 or 514 now. And I'm going to zoom again the best I can here without causing glare. Why don't we do it this way? I'm going to approach with 514. Naleid, showing you this, and can I direct your attention to that same area around the gas cap?
Yes.
Do you see the same area that appeared to be smeared in that salt film in that photograph as well?
Yes.
And it appears that we have some thinner lines running downwards from the smear near the item of the gas cap. Is that correct?
Correct.
So those appear to be consistent with a human finger.
Objection, Your Honor. And it's not his expertise.
He's a crime scenes expert. He looks at impressions. Overruled. Go ahead.
I don't have a scaled photo, but just based off the size of typical vehicles, that looks to be pretty close to about the width of a finger.
I'm sorry.
It appears to be the similar width to a finger. 2 fingers, actually.
Generally speaking, when a vehicle like this is stored for your review, is it your expectation that law enforcement and others will not be touching or handling or trying to or touching or handling the exterior of the vehicle before you review it?
Correct.
And it was your expectation that this policy and this process was followed in this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, just given the glare issues with the Alamo, I would move to publish this individually to the jury.
Any objection? Yeah, publish it individually to the jury.
Thank you. It appears that the jurors have viewed the exhibit.
One more juror wants to take a look at it.
Oh.
You can just bring it over to him if you can, please. And just decide, please don't show it to each other. Just look at it yourself individually.
All right. And it appears that the jury has had a chance to view 514.
514.
Okay. All right. Mr. Naleid, were you shown any scene photographs taken of the vehicle before it was seized at any point?
I don't believe so.
All right. I'm going to publish what's been previously admitted as Exhibit 508. See the smearing area and kind of the same area as Exhibit 514?
I believe so, yes.
I have no further questions.
Redirect.
Yes.
Mr. Naleid, Mr. Mr. Zacher asked you on 508 if you see the same area of smearing. Can you take a look at this closely and tell me if you see
It's kind of hard to see with the reflection of the side of the vehicle. There's snow on the vehicle, which was not there when I looked at it. There's kind of a sheen to this page, so it's probably not an exact perfect rendition of what the actual picture looks like. I don't actually see the exact 2 fingers that I saw in that other picture.
Okay. Any objection?
No.
Go ahead. And personally published, that is not, go ahead. Look at it yourself, each individually, if you could please. Go ahead.
Mr. Naleid, I'm going to ask you to take a look at the PowerPoint exhibit and photograph number 40004. Mr. Zacher asked you about the area to the rear of the vehicle. Instead, it looks like some area's been wiped off. Can you tell for certain if it's that we're seeing any reflections or that there is some sort of disturbance on the side of the vehicle there?
I can't really make that determination based on this photo. There is some shininess to it that could be a reflection from the light in there. It also could have been wiped off. I can't really tell.
And that area where the gas cover is to the rear, is that a frequently touched area of the exterior of a vehicle?
Yes.
While we're getting down. All right. Mr. Zachard asked you about where you had located the fiber or apparent fiber on this particular location. Can I ask you why you would look in a location like this for a fiber based on your training in evidence collection?
We looked at the entire underside of the vehicle. It just so happened that that's where we located a fiber, an apparent fiber.
Is there anything special about this particular area that would tend to collect fibers?
There's sharp corners on it, which collect things like that.
He also talked about other things that were collected. Were there items that you did not collect?
Yes.
And why was that?
We photo documented and scaled item number 4. Taking a gas tank off to collect it would have been a lot of work. There's not a whole lot we could do with the actual item. Anybody that would look at it later on can do the same analysis that they'd be able to do with just a scaled photograph.
Also hazardous, probably, to transport a gas tank?
Yeah.
Your Honor, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Recross?
Just one. Mr. Naleid, is it correct that, to your knowledge, no analyst actually examined your photographs of item number 4?
I don't believe anybody did.
Thank you.
Any redirect from there?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may step down. Why don't we take a morning break to, you can go ahead and step down. Oh, thank you. We'll take a morning break till 10:30. We'll try to get going right away if we can. Please don't talk about the case, and we'll see you then.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't good at pretending to be excited.
Price is Right, same thing.
Yeah. They probably actually prefer that you're not good at it.
Because they don't want to lose the money.
Oh, here in a minute. No, now I'll go.
So glad you have some sweet tart brownies. Where'd you find that? Oh.
Hey, Fritz.
You were hoping to get in the building. I was hoping. He's seated.
He's in
Good
visible.
point.
This judge reminds me of like his sitcom father. Like Alex
I mean, they could just move it right there.
Or uncle.
All right.
My brain.
Looks like, going back on the record, looks like all the parties are present. Can we bring the jury in from the state?
Yes.
Defense?
That's fine, Your Honor.
Should I join?
Oh, Your Honor, while the jury's coming in, I need to run downstairs quick.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right, everybody may be seated. Do you know who your next witness? Can you just go ahead and call your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. ADA Jessica Stemp will be doing the direct examination, but state calls this next witness Ruth Hank.
Okay, why don't we get her sworn in at least? We're just waiting for Ms. Kemp. She'll be right up in a second. Just have a seat.
Ms. Hank asked if she could have a bottle of water.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them up there. Okay.
Thank you. I'm gonna guess you've been duly sworn.
Yes, she has been sworn.
Thank you. Could you state your full name, please?
My name is Ruth Hank.
And how are you employed?
I am employed at the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I am currently the chemistry section supervisor and trace evidence technical leader.
How long have you been employed at the State Crime Laboratory?
Approximately 32 years.
And can you describe the work that you do in the areas that you're assigned?
As chemistry supervisor, I oversee the trace evidence unit as well as the toxicology and controlled substances unit. As the trace evidence technical leader, I am involved in some casework. I train employees. I oversee the quality system for the trace unit.
And is that generally what you were doing in 2019?
Yes.
Okay. I'm handing you Exhibit 72, or State's Exhibit 72. Can you describe what that item is?
State's Exhibit number 72 is a statement of my qualifications that lists my employment history as well as training as well as other experience.
Can you please describe the educational background that you've had to work at the crime laboratory?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. In addition, I have attended numerous external trainings, including workshops, symposia, professional meetings, and paper presentations.
Have you received, you mentioned other trainings, can you detail any trainings that you received specifically for trace evidence examiner, or to examine trace items?
I have attended numerous workshops as far as the types of testing that we do in the trace unit, which includes fibers, paints, glass, fire debris for ignitable liquids, chemical unknowns, low explosives. So I have had numerous workshops on those topics. Specifically, as far as fiber evidence is concerned, I have had training in microscopy, I've had training in fiber examination and comparison, as well as other related workshops and instrumentation and paper presentations.
And Mr. Naleid had discussed this, but your laboratory is accredited.
Yes, it is.
And it was accredited in 2019?
I believe that was the year it was accredited, yes.
He also described that as part of accreditation, there's a proficiency testing that is done. Are you required to do any proficiency testing?
Yes, I am.
Can you describe what that process is, please?
Proficiency testing is required by all analysts that work criminal cases, and we have to take basically a test that's provided by an external provider, and that test is designed to mimic a real casework type of testing. So we have to analyze it using our procedures and protocols, as well as write a report like we would in an actual criminal case.
And then once you do that, is that evaluated?
Yes. The results are not known to this test while we are taking it. We submit it to the proficiency test provider, at which point the results are evaluated and we're notified whether we passed or not.
Have you previously testified as an expert witness?
Yes, I have.
Now, can you describe the process of performing trace analysis, in particular with fiber comparison?
As far as how I analyze fiber cases, generally they consist of a comparison between a questioned fiber and a known fiber. I initially start by taking custody of those items and just taking notes on them as far as their condition. As part of a fiber examination, I have certain quality protocols that I follow, including making sure my work area is clean, in addition to inspecting any tools I use or supplies. I then will open one item at a time. I usually try to open the question items prior to the known, so there's no possibility of contamination. And then I would eventually mount those fibers and look at them microscopically.
I'm sorry, I think I forgot this, but is that Exhibit 72, your statement of qualifications?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I would move to admit Exhibit 72.
No objection.
Been received?
Were you asked to perform any comparisons in a case involving the decedent Mark Phillips?
Yes.
And did you prepare reports of the work that you did?
Yes, I did.
Ms. Hank, I have handed to you exhibit number 73 for identification. Can you tell me what that item is, please?
State's exhibit number 73 is a copy of my laboratory report of confidential findings, and it bears the laboratory case number of M as in Mary 19-881.
Why do you assign a case number?
When evidence is brought into the laboratory, it is assigned a laboratory case number where it is put into our laboratory information management system, or LIMS, and that is used to track the evidence as it comes into the lab. All of our reports are put in there, as well as chain of custody.
Now, these items were transmitted to the laboratory by the LaCrosse County Sheriff's Department?
I would need to refer to the receipt for that.
Okay. A receipt would refresh your recollection on that?
Yes, it would.
Showing you an item that purports to be a receipt of physical evidence. Will that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And does it refresh your recollection as to where you received the items in this particular case from?
Well, I personally received them from an evidence storage area, but as far as how they came into the laboratory, they were submitted by LaCrosse County Sheriff's Office via UPS.
Now, when you did perform comparisons in this case, can you describe what items you did compare in this case and how you did that?
I received several items in this case. The ones that were actually compared, where I looked at the known fibers, would have been a pair of blue jeans and a black sweatshirt. I also received other items that did not involve fiber comparison or analysis. I also received several items where fibers were collected on sticky notes, and those correspond to items K, L, M, N, and P.
All right. And what were your, is there any concern about the use of the sticky notes for preservation of small items like fibers or hairs?
Sticky notes are one of the ways we instruct law enforcement to collect fibers, and the reason for that is because the adhesive on there is thin enough where it will retain them so they are not lost, but it is not so sticky that it embeds them. Say, for instance, in a fingerprint lift card, it's very sticky, and at that point it coats the fiber. The sticky notes are actually quite useful for collecting them.
And do you recall the condition that these items, when you retrieved them, how were they packaged?
Well, they were all packaged in various forms of packaging in a sealed condition with these sticky notes present.
I think you answered this before, but did you pull all of these items out at one time to perform your analysis, or did you do them individually?
No, initially when items are brought into the lab and I'm starting my analysis, I will open items one at a time on separate pieces of clean paper. You know, I clean my work area. Like I said, I inspect all of my tools. They're opened one at a time. Then I place it back in the, original container, and then, perhaps I'm mounting a fiber or just doing general description, and then I open the next item. So they are done sequentially, not concurrently.
So in this particular case, what items did you compare and what findings did you make?
I looked at several fibers. Item K consisted of 2 sticky notes denoted as K1 and K2. I found 3 white polyester fibers on item K1, which are denoted K1A through K1C. I also looked at a blue fiber, which referred to as, let me just refer to my report, item M1, and I compared that to the blue jeans, which was item H.
In the blue jeans were listed as the jeans collected from the decedent, Mark Phillips.
Yes, and in addition, I also compared those white polyester fibers that I just referred to the stitching on the blue jeans, which was also white.
Now, can you tell us, when you're making these comparisons, what are you looking for?
Basically, when I do a fiber comparison, the first part I do is I actually determine what type of fiber I'm looking at. So for instance, whether it's cotton or polyester or other types. And when I do an actual comparison, I use what's called a comparison polarized light microscope, or comparison PLM. And that allows me to observe both fibers under the microscope, both question and known, in real time. And I'm able to look at both the color as well as other morphological properties and optical properties.
And did you say morphology? What is that?
Morphology is some of the more general characteristics of how I would describe a fiber, for instance. Whether it is like the fiber diameter, fiber cross-sectional shape, color, I would consider that morphology.
Now the white polyester, the unknown white polyester fibers that you compared to stitching from the jeans, did you make any determinations?
Yes, they were inconsistent with the stitching on the jeans fibers.
The fiber that was item M, or M1, excuse me, in comparing that to fibers taken from the jeans from Mr. Phillips' jeans, what findings did you make?
The blue cotton fiber that I examined, the question fiber, was consistent with the blue jean fiber, item H.
And what does that mean that they were consistent?
That means when I examined them under the comparison PLM microscope, I did not see any differences.
Now, is there a reason why you said it did not, that the question fiber did not come from that item, those jeans?
I cannot say with fiber evidence that a question fiber conclusively comes from a source garment, and that is because of mass manufacture of garments. Manufacturers produce many pairs of jeans, so in theory, anything that's produced in a batch or with a particular dye lot or whatever could have those same characteristics.
Did you make any other conclusions regarding items that you looked at?
Those were the ones that I actually compared, and those were the primary findings, yes.
Now, denim or jeans can come, there are darker shades of denim jeans and lighter shades of denim jeans. So if the color would have differed in any way from the known sample, what would your finding have been?
If the color was different between the question and the known, I would have determined that it was inconsistent. The question fiber was inconsistent with the known and could not have come from that source.
And what do you do once you make your results?
After I'm done with my examinations, I write a report.
And once you write your report, are there any other steps to make sure that it is accurate?
Yes, as part of our requirements, we have technical review of all of our work. So in other words, what I've done, I write my report, it is peer-reviewed by another qualified analyst, so they look over our notes, our data, and our report to make sure that they're technically accurate and then that they agree with the findings.
And was that, your report in this case was peer-reviewed?
Yes, it was.
And they did also agree with your findings?
Yes, based on my notes, my data, and my report, yes.
Now, there is a, when your agency is done with a, evidence, what do you do with it?
The evidence that we examined is then returned to the submitter.
And is it described in a way that you can tell what the items are?
I don't understand your question.
Okay. Have you seen an evidence release form previously?
Yes, an evidence release form is prepared once the evidence is returned, yes.
Okay. And that would, it describes what the evidence is that's being returned to the agency. Is that accurate?
Yes, the evidence release form is basically a return receipt, and it describes what we are returning to the submitter or the submitting agency.
And does that, I think it'll just be easier if I show you this. Showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 75 for identification. Can you tell me what that item is, please?
Exhibit number 75 is an evidence release return form for laboratory case M19-881.
Now, you indicated that the fiber that you had indicated was consistent with Mr. Phillips' genes came from item M1, which was derived from item M. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And does this, are you able to tell from this document or other agency records where that fiber came from?
According to our receipt, which is prepared when the evidence is submitted, it was apparently recovered from a weight on rear end of drive shaft.
Thank you. If I have no further questions, I would move for submission of Exhibits 74. 73, 74, and 75.
Any objection? No. You received? Crosse?
Thank you. Sure. Morning, Ms. Hank.
Good morning.
All right. I'm going to be relatively brief, but just to touch on the topic of consistency versus match. So when you say that something is consistent, it means that the two question items could be from the same source of fabric or material. Is that correct?
That the question and known could have be common source, yes.
What you're not doing is saying that they're coming from an identical source. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's no way I could discriminate between the two microscopically.
And cotton is a fairly common fiber, right?
That is correct.
And in this case, can I correctly summarize your testimony as that item M is consistent with item H. Is that correct?
M1, the questioned fiber, was consistent with the known fibers from item H, yes.
And you didn't make any other findings that any other items were consistent with one another, is that correct?
That's correct.
You had other items of Mr. Phillips's clothing provided to you as well?
Yes, I did.
You had a sweatshirt?
I did.
The pair of jeans that was designated as item H?
Correct.
A pair of shoes?
Yes.
A belt?
Yes.
Socks?
Correct.
And in this case, you agree that M1 could have originated from item H?
Could have, yes.
It could have originated from any other sample of cotton consistent with the characteristics of item M1?
It could have originated from another source with blue cotton fibers that were similar to it.
And Ms. Hank, you're not making any conclusions on how item M1 got onto the drive shaft of the vehicle in question, correct?
Correct. I can only examine what is submitted to me at the laboratory.
You're not making any conclusions as to how that was attached to the drive shaft of the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
You're not making any conclusions as to when that was attached to the vehicle, correct?
That's correct.
And you're not making any conclusions on whether M1 was attached to the vehicle as a result of a collision with Mark Phillips?
Correct.
Nothing further.
And redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Down.
Thank you.
Do you have any-
At this time, I would ask that Ms. Hank and Mr. Naleid be released from their subpoenas.
Be released from their subpoenas?
No.
Call your next witness.
Call Investigator Fritz Leinfelder. Your Honor, I'm handing what I expect will eventually be a transcript, just
Yeah.
Did you already state your name for the record?
I am not. It's Fritz Leinfelder.
What is your occupation?
I am an investigator for the LaCrosse County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been doing that for?
I just celebrated my 31st year in law enforcement, and I've been an investigator for over 22 years.
So did you start off as an investigator, or did I?
I didn't start off as an investigator. I started off working in the jail, got promoted out as a patrol officer, then from patrol officer into investigations in 2001.
How does one become an investigator?
Well, it's kind of with our department, it's an interview process. You show basically your proficiency in other aspects of what you can provide to the department, and I was promoted through that. Once promoted, they send you off to numerous different trainings for the last 22 years. I've been countless number of different trainings in different facets of investigation, to include evidence technicians, interview skills, all kinds of different trainings that we'll attend throughout our career.
So were you employed as an investigator on the morning of February 23rd, 2019?
Yes, I was.
I guess, were you asked, so you were on duty at that time or no?
I was not on duty as an investigator. For the sheriff's office, we are always on call. So at any moment, the work phone can ring, and we can be assigned to go assist or at a different scene, or take over a scene.
So you're on call. Did you respond to a call on that morning, or did you get a call that morning?
Yes, I got a call that morning.
What was the situation, or as you understood it, or what was the call?
The call came across as a suspicious death a male party, deceased in the driveway, unknown circumstances.
We'll talk more and I'll ask more about this later, but at some point did you personally interview someone known as Lori Phillips?
Yes, I did.
How did you identify her? How did you know that this person I just been mentioned is named Lori Phillips?
When I got to the scene, I was told that that this was Lori Phillips, the wife of Mark Phillips, by, I believe, Sergeant Valencia.
Would you recognize that person if you saw her?
Yes, I would.
Is she in the courtroom today?
She is.
Can you point her out for us?
She's sitting next to Attorney Chris Zacher in the middle of the defense table.
Ask the record to reflect identification of the defendant.
Record reflect identification.
So going back to the call that you had mentioned, did you respond to that call or go to a scene of some kind?
Yes, I drove to the scene immediately. After receiving the call, got dressed, went to the scene.
What was your purpose for being on the scene?
Initial purpose is to give assistance to the other officers that were there at the time, to help look at the scene, help figure out what we possibly might have at that point.
Do you recall about what time you got there?
I believe around 7 a.m. I arrived at the scene, approximately.
And the scene I'm referring to, is that the Phillips residence?
Yes, at W5414, County Road W.
Is that the same location we've talked about up until this point?
That's the exact location, yes.
And did you recall about what time you got there?
I was at around 7 a.m.
If other people were on scene, who was all on scene when you arrived?
I believe Sergeant Valencia was there. Deputy Stotinger was already on scene. There was other first responders. I believe Tri-State may have been on the scene also at the time I arrived.
You talked about your purpose. What were your duties at that location at that time?
My initial basically assignment or duty was to speak with Lori Phillips and try to figure out what had occurred the night prior. From the information I was told from the deputies on scene, that Ms. Phillips had already relayed information to them.
Were you the first investigator on scene?
I was the first investigator on the scene.
This has been talked about or mentioned previously, but I'll just ask, is there a difference between being, I guess, the first investigator and the lead investigator on a scene?
Typically with the sheriff's office, it's more unusual to name a lead investigator. Our investigators work together on multiple different facets of that. We have a chain of command that we follow. So, I mean, the first investigator, just happens that I probably lived the closest to the residents that I arrived on scene as compared to a lead investigator. Again, it's kind of a rarity that the sheriff's office would name a quote-unquote lead investigator.
So does a lead investigator, does that have any special meaning for this particular situation?
Not particularly.
You had mentioned the command structure. Is there I guess in your office, the LaCrosse County Sheriff's, what is the command structure? Who decides who does what on any given situation?
At the time of this call, we had a Captain John Zimmerman was the captain of the Investigative Bureau, and he was the one that was in control and in command of the other investigators in the Bureau.
So from your office, I guess different officers, different people have different duties, tasks, and assignments. Is that accurate?
That would be accurate, yes.
For this particular scene that we're talking about, can you kind of identify who from your office did what? Who did what on this particular scene? Can you identify that?
Yeah, yes, generally. So Sergeant Valencia was the first officer on the scene, and his job at that role at this point was to first life-saving measures if possible, and then scene security, making sure that nobody's coming into the scene that could disrupt anything. He also can be taking statements from individuals that were there that may have some information that will pertain to what has occurred. Deputy Stoetinger arrived. Deputy Stoetinger's initial assignment was to basically maintain traffic safety, traffic security with the other responding units, first responders, and that kind of thing. He eventually did get a different role where he was assisting with Ms. Phillips, trying to get her away from the scene, talk to her, see if there's any assistance that he could provide her at that time. I then arrived. I kind of talked about what my duties for the day were. We'll go into more, I believe. Deputy Pete Sloan was eventually called, which he assisted with some. Actual traffic, that intersection there there are some hidden areas of that intersection that could be dangerous for going out in there, especially when you have numerous vehicles that are parked there. So the M and W intersection can be tough to see coming from the east on WM going westbound, kind of a dip. So basically, the safety of all the individuals coming and going from their vehicles or things like that that may have been out on the roadway or anything like that.
Okay. During the time you were at the residence, I'm going to call this and correct me or clarify, but I guess were there non-professional people there? And by that, I'm referring to not first responders or EMT or anyone we've heard about or anyone with your office.
Yes, I believe there was initially, I don't know if it was initially, but eventually one of Lori's friends arrived that she had called to kind of help her through the process of what was going on, a little bit, some added support. I've been made aware, and I asked Ms. Phillips if she needed any assistance in contacting other family members, that she need clergy, anything along those lines. I was made aware that some of her children were going to be arriving on the scene in a relatively short period of time.
Do you know, I guess, what the other people you're talking about, I mean, did they arrive while you were still there?
Her sons arrived when we were still there, when I was still there with Miss Phillips. Her friend was there also.
Okay. So after you were there?
Yes.
Or got there?
Yes.
Do you have I guess, are you able to say about what time that is, or?
I could not estimate the time on that I spent at the scene before I left with Miss Phillips.
In your years of service, I mean, have you ever responded to situations involving a deceased person?
Yes, I have. Numerous.
Numerous? I'm asking, I didn't
Yes,
hear.
yes, numerous scenes which I've dealt with deceased parties.
So I'm not asking about this particular scene, but generally, is it expected or unexpected in this type of a situation that you had codified, people not directly involved with the investigation, non-professional people might show up?
Yes, that's commonplace, and it's actually something I believe that, for the most part, law enforcement assists people that are, if we have somebody that dies of a heart attack, law enforcement's one of their first responsibilities is asking the other family members if they need any assistance in calling any other family members or making contact with anybody that they have. So that's one of our roles in that, is to assist those people in that, and taking one less thing off of their plate that they have to try to concentrate on. We'll assist people with that.
But you, your office, the other people you've talked about and what they do, I guess there's still a duty to preserve the scene. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
So are there, given that the commonality or what you had just testified about, are there steps or policies or procedures in place to preserve a scene, any scene, this kind of scene?
Yes. In a scene similar to this or other scenes where we just have either a sudden death or suspicious death, our first response is going to be any life-saving measures, which would include first responders or paramedics coming into the scene to assist. Once that's established, basically that scene is then going to be closed off, and people are not going to be allowed to travel within the area of that. Sometimes that's actual barricade, sometimes that's with officers saying, we're staying out of this area.
So now I am talking about this particular scene. Were those steps you just described, were they done there? How were they done there? What can you tell us about that?
Yes, they were done there, and they were done by Sergeant Valencia with basically being in that area for the most period of time when those, after the life-saving measures were taken care of or ruled not going to be effective. I believe Sergeant Valencia for a while, maybe Deputy Stoinger was there, and that was talking to the personnel that were on scene, first responders, that they're going to kind of leave in the same direction they came. We don't want any other footprints and things like that. Other people that are arrived on scene in this instance, when Ms. Phillips' sons arrived, they were directed to go towards the M driveway and not go onto the W driveway where Mark Phillips was located.
So after you got to this scene, I guess, what's the first thing you do?
First thing I did, I met with Sergeant Valencia and got some more information about what he had been able to collect from Ms. Phillips or anything else about the scene. I did observe Mr. Phillips in the driveway at the time, got, I would say, relatively close. And then I went on to meet with Ms. Phillips up in the main house.
When you observe Mr. Phillips, is that before, after, or during, I guess, tri-state ambulance or anybody else was moving or interacting with the location of the body?
Before, during, and after. So I observed him before he was moved at all. I observed a bit of the process in which he was being moved, and after he was moved.
When you say close to Mr. Phillips, I mean, I guess close enough to, I'm going to refer to this as get a good look.
Yes.
But other than that, did you do anything with him, or I guess did you do anything with, I mean, you didn't personally have to interact with his body or anything?
No, I did not.
That's What information did you have, or is there any additional information other than what you've talked about available at this point from the situation you were in, that you've described?
Available information regarding the occurrences the night before was I given, or the state of Mr. Phillips?
Did you attempt to interview Ms. Phillips at the location meaning the residence?
Yes, I did. In the main house, I was attempting to talk to her.
Okay, you said attempt. Were you able to do so?
I was able to talk to her. There was numerous interruptions. There was, there were still first responder personnel there. The other officers were there, and I knew it was. I believe she was on her phone getting text messages and making phone calls, trying to contact other people at the time. So it was a difficult time to try to just sit down with Ms. Phillips to figure out the events of the night before.
So were there, I guess, distractions preventing you from talking to her in more detail?
I wouldn't preventing them. I wouldn't say preventing them, but making it difficult to gather information from Ms. Phillips was more along those lines.
So I guess if it was difficult to interview her at the main house, what did you do next?
In talking with Ms. Phillips, I asked her if it would be possible for her to come to a location away from the residence where we could sit down and have an uninterrupted conversation, so we wouldn't have the distractions, so I could get a better picture from her of what occurred the previous night. because as it was happening at the house, it was kind of ask a question and get a little answer, but it was kind of bits and pieces because of the interruption. So I asked her if it was possible, which she said yes. And her friend Kimmy, I can't remember Kimmy's last name off the top of my head right now, drove her to the Holman Police Department, which was basically the closest police department or place where we could sit down and conduct an interview in an uninterrupted manner. So I drove my vehicle, Lori drove with her friend to the Holman Police Department.
So you had offered to go to the police department. I mean, did you tell her it was the Holman Police Department, or did you say somewhere different?
I believe I told her it was the Holman Police Department, so they knew where we were going to be going.
Did you say that she drove with a friend?
Yes.
And that was separate from yourself, how you got there, or no?
Correct, yeah. Like I said, I drove my vehicle. Miss Phillips drove in another vehicle.
Oh, so somebody, I mean, you either let Miss Phillips or the friend know where you were going.
Correct.
Is there any special reason why you suggested the Holman PD?
I believe I stated that because it was the closest area that we could get privacy to sit down and be able to talk.
Did you know this Kimmy? Did you know this person?
No, I did not.
And did you talk to or really interview that person?
At the time, that morning, she was in some of the conversations that we had at the residence, and then when she drove Miss Phillips to the Holman Police Department, she stayed out in a waiting room lobby area of the Holman Police Department.
So this, I guess, Kimmy, she's not involved with your office or the investigation. That's what I'm asking.
Correct.
Do you recall what time you got to the Holman Police Department?
Approximately 9:30
a.m. or p.m.?
a.m.
So was this the same day or a different day?
The same day, that morning.
So you had went pretty much right there?
Yes.
And that's about 2.5 hours after you got the initial call? Or
Yes.
Where did you go, I guess, once you got into the Holman Police Department?
We went into one of their interview rooms, one of their large interview rooms that they have at the police department there. There's a large table in the middle of the interview room. I escorted Miss Phillips there, asked her if she needed anything, she needed to go to the bathroom, wanted any water or coffee or anything like that, to where we went. Again, her friend Kimmy was out in the lobby area of the police department.
The room you went to, I guess, did you say it was an interview room?
Yes.
I guess, without belaboring the point, where is that room generally located in the Holman PD?
I guess it's just off of their squad room. I guess that's not going to make much difference to the jury, but that would be on the southern side of the police department, kind of adjacent to their garage area. So it'd be kind of in the back southern corner, southwestern corner of the police department.
And you indicated that Kimmy had stayed in the lobby.
Yes.
Are there other people at the police station at this time?
I believe there's other officers that were, the Holman police officers that were at the police department at that point.
Did you do anything to set up the interview prior to interviewing Ms. Phillips?
I guess when we got into the interview room, I sat down with Ms. Phillips. Typically what I like to do is have individuals that I'm talking to in this type of a situation is write out a written statement of, telling me the events leading to whatever the end of the incident might be. I typically tell them to tell me what they believe, write down what they believe is important or relevant, is how I start out my interviews.
So I guess, is that a tool that you often use?
Yes, it's one of the tools, and not all officers or all investigators use that. It's one that I found that's very, very useful.
And I guess was Ms. Phillips, I mean, was she permitted to amend or supplement that written statement?
Yes, she was, and typically that, I shouldn't say typically, at times that can happen, but she was allowed to kind of put an asterisk in the written report.
So, did she make a written statement?
Yes, she did.
Did you eventually get an opportunity to interview Ms. Phillips?
Yes, I did.
And I guess since I had asked about she made a written statement, did she supplement the written statement?
She also supplemented the written statement, yes.
Did you describe and discuss those topics in your eventual interview with Ms. Phillips?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Was that interview recorded?
Yes, it was.
I guess by video or just audio or?
Video, audio representation from the interview room at the police department.
If you saw part of the footage from that interview, would you be able to recognize it?
Absolutely, yes.
So, Your Honor, we might need, unless we already, I have directed the clerk to mark what is now Exhibit 76. I'm asking to display, I guess, the initial part of that just on screen without playing it for the purpose of copyright.
Okay.
Say that again. Let me try it again.
So Investigator Leinfelder, now that this is on screen, are you able to recognize a photo of what is on, I guess, what can you tell us about what is on the screen?
Yes, this is the interview room of the Homeland Police Department. On the right side of the video, you have Ms. Phillips, and at that point she is seated and writing out a written statement.
And I guess, is this the interview? Or is this a recording of the interview I was previously describing?
This is a photo of the interview, yes.
And how can you tell?
I've watched. I was there and also watched the interview on the computer after the fact.
And up in the top left corner of our screen, is that I guess, what is that?
It's a time and date stamp. It's dated February 23rd, 2019. It's the day of the week, which is Saturday, and the time stamp on this photo is 9:54 and 54 seconds a.m.
And from your memory and what you've testified to here, does that sound like an accurate time of when you interviewed Ms. Phillips?
Yes, like I said, I believe that we walked into the interview room right around 9:30 in the morning, and she started working on her written statement. So yes, that's an accurate time. It would fit the time.
So I'm now messing, I guess, for lack of a better term, with the scroll bar. Can you just identify about how long this video is? I'm looking at the bottom.
The bottom here,
Yeah.
1:54 and 42.
And this is beginning at, it looked like,
That's about the 21-minute mark.
okay.
21:02.
You had indicated you had watched this interview before. That timing that I'm talking about, that time frame, does that sound accurate to you as far as how long it was?
Yes.
And do you believe this to be, from what you can see and the indicators you made, a true and accurate copy of this interview recording?
Yes.
I'm going to request that this exhibit, pending if there's any further objections to authenticity throughout playing it, but right now I'm going to ask that it be submitted as evidence and permission to continue with the recording.
Subject to future objection, no objection.
Okay. Received.
And it can be published.
Yes.
Just for the record, I'm going to move it back to the beginning.
So, Investigator Leinfelder, before we begin playing, is the timer now at 00?
Yes, it is.
And the top left, is that timestamp? What is that at?
Same date, 9:33 and 51 seconds a.m.
For the record, I'm going to jump ahead about a minute 30. I guess I jumped ahead 54 seconds just so.
And before we begin, Investigator Leinfelder, did anything to the best of your memory happen in that first 54 seconds?
No, that was the time that the recorder was starting, and then we entered the room.
Possible sponsorship. It's got TV. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, you bet. Fritz. Sometimes it's easier to put your thoughts down.
Cool.
In a written form. Obviously, it'll get you going on this.
Okay, I have to get my glasses on.
Which cheaters do you use? The
Basic
125s or the?
I have no idea.
I just
The 1.0.
The camera system is your email. Do you use that goes by email system?
Oh, it's a Mark's email.
And as it passed, you know what his email address is that it would go to?
Yep, I have all of passwords.
Okay.
So, well, let me look, but I'm assuming it is his, so M. Phillips at yhic.com.
So,
Check in my notes, I have everything.
MPHILLITS.
Oh my God, we should change your address. Oh my God, sorry.
Oh my God. Oh, correct. What?
YHIC, Your Home Improvement Company.com, so YHIC.com. And I can almost guarantee.
Why?
Capital P HILO 7024.
PHILO 7024.
Capital P. Actually didn't have that one written down, but I'm fairly positive that's going to be it. I don't even know what the date is. The 23rd. Can I start this?
Yeah, just basically starting from when you left last night, you went to dinner, everything you told me. You went to Sloopy's, had wings, pizza, blah, 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 went to the dive for the drawing. When things got a little, an argument may have started, just in that kind of deal. More specific you could be, better. If you can't be specific, completely understand. Yeah, no, not like that. Just other things that, whatever you think's important to put into that to tell the story of what happened last night, the domestic situation. I am going to let you work. I'm going to go to the bathroom quick. I'll check on Kimmy, make sure she's squared away. If you need anything, just open up the door, give me a holler. But I shouldn't be gone very long.
So I don't even know what to do because here I forgot all about the physical part that I didn't write in there.
Okay, you can just, you just want to insert it, you can just make a, you just continue on, you just continue on. So you can put little asterisks here and then go back on another piece of paper and put that. No, it's your mind's racing a million miles per hour. It's tough to do these things, but no, just more paper. You're gonna want soda, water.
Actually, I'll have a water. Please, thank you.
I've stopped the video at 17, looks like 26, 17:26. Investigator Leinfelder, I'll try not to interrupt too many times, but I guess you're talking about what you said about the asterisks. Is that, I guess, what is that? What does that mean? Asterisks here, asterisks there.
I will tell the individual, like, put the asterisk where you think if you left something out and you want to fill it in, mark a spot on the paper to show where you think that should have filled in, where you want to fill it in. Again, I was instructed, do your best to give me what's important about the incident and go from there.
So when I had asked you about supplementing statements, is that how you would notate that asterisk?
Yes.
And does the location of the asterisk correspond to where it was supposed to be in the statement, or no? Or is there any timing weighted at a certain time?
It appeared that it fit, I guess, to answer that question, it appeared that it fit in the timing of the of where she was writing the statement and of events that she was, the important events in her mind of where they were.
But you yourself, you didn't instruct her to do anything special.
No, I didn't. I basically put the asterisk. I didn't tell her where to put an asterisk in.
Let the record reflect we were starting again at 17:26, exactly where we had paused. So, Your Honor, I'm just, because we're making a written record, we had a fumble at council table with a water bottle. If I may have permission, I would like to, the video right now is stopped, it looks like 18:05. Would we have permission to go back just a little bit, in case the disturbance cut off the video, or just keep going?
I'll just keep going.
Judge, can I ask, is the volume all the way up?
The volume is very hard to hear after the stoppage.
It did move the microphone the way it was pointed, so.
Okay. So you're doing the volume off that? Off the microphone?
Yeah.
You're not doing it through the system, in other words.
It's connected to the system, but somehow it is going through my device.
Okay. I don't know, keep playing it. It's a long video, keep going.
Starting at 18:05.
All right. They don't, hopefully they'll be able to get in. If not, they might try to do it with your phone, if that's okay. I'll let you know. Water.
I don't know the two hotels' names.
What?
I don't know the two hotels' names.
You told me Comfort Inn.
Comfort Inn, yep.
And then, Baymont. That's correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess you want it.
need to add when we were outside of the dive.
Okay. So just start with like an asterisk there, and come on that page. If that asterisk where you want to insert it, I don't know. And then do the same after that there.
Literally can't Can I turn my cameras off?
Yeah. Can you turn your alerts off? Cameras on, turn your lights off. I don't think we need to keep the cameras on. I don't want to shut anything down, really. Actually, you know what they might do is just that guy that's trying to download or look into that might just give him the phone. So, try to do that. The video camera is there.
Stop the video at 2622, Investigator Leinfelder. What cameras are you talking about?
The blink cameras that are at the residence, when they're on, there's motion detection. So anytime there's a motion detection on the camera, an alert goes to your phone, and I believe in similar to a text message. With officers being at the residence, there was lots of motion going on. So Ms. Phillips was asking if she could turn the cameras off so she wouldn't be distracted by that.
And that was due to what was still happening at the residence while this interview was happening?
Yes, with the other officers that were still at the scene. The volume was a little bit low when you started that back up after that last part.
Are we at maximum? Starting at 2622 again, where are we at?
I'll see if that guy's here. Is that all right? No. He needs to, is there a code or is it shift number?
The code on that one is 081895.
0818.
Brandon. He got mad because it was Hunter, so then he switched.
Don't want to feel left out. I'll see if he's here. We'll get that buzz driving us up. You can look into that. You're okay if you could dive into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
and looked. I haven't even changed my clothes.
I'm pausing at 29:35. Investigator Leinfelder, I guess it looks like you're looking at your phone there. Is that accurate?
Yes.
What are you doing? Are you doing anything of note there?
A lot of times during interviews, information gets relayed back and forth through text messages from other officers, other investigators that might be on the scene of an incident, trying to give a heads up. Could be me relaying information back regarding in this instance, maybe the camera system that they have on the home security camera system they have in the house. So I know in sometimes it appears that we're distracted or we're doing other things, but in these instances where we're doing interviews, we're either receiving or delivering information that we're receiving as we receive it, so we have a better understanding on what's going on at the scene, what's going on in the interview room, and basically that's the context of me looking at my phone.
So you're actually doing something relating to the investigation?
Yes, that's correct.
Replaying the video at 29:35 where we had paused?
What do you call the step thing that you get into the truck? What do you call it?
Side rail or step?
The last thing I wanted you guys thinking he's a bad person, though, by reading this. Because he
No.
certainly wasn't. You just had a jealous reaction.
You said you had possibly bruise here. You
No, I wanna
grabbed
see
you by the neck.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything or not. Yeah, me in the middle of the truck. There should be an earring somewhere in the truck, too, because at least an earring was missing, so.
So I'm sorry, read this just so. So we went to dinner at Sloopy's with Hannah Klinsky and Adam Stevens. We met at 4:15 p.m. We ate, or approximately. We ate and went to the dive for an 8 p.m. drawing. After the drawing, we were leaving to come back to Holman. We were going to go to Beecher's drawing at 9, and we ran into Scott Cundy. When we were leaving, Scott Cundy asked us to go to a car that had just pulled in to say hi to Terry LaFleur and his wife. Mark said, going to get the truck and met back at Terry's truck. They all went to Mark's truck to talk. Got into the truck and we left. Mark accused Terry of coming to the bar to see me. He accused me of sleeping with him. Asked. To with the asterisk.
Last night. I mean,
Yep.
that's just, like, he's never brought Terry's name up before in his life.
So that's where you put the asterisk. Mark pulled me into the middle of the truck and was holding me down. He had me in a chokehold. After getting away from Mark, I went inside to be with friends. So you were still at the dive.
Right.
Yeah.
Only
I
at
was
the dive.
missing my left earring and had
I just said sensitive because I don't know if
sensitive
it's
area,
a
over your right chest and neck area. I got a bruise on the back to the dive so my friends would take me home. I talked to Hannah, Adam. Asked if
Yeah,
they
I've
would
got
give
all
me-
of the phone things, so I don't know if you guys do
Sure.
that.
Mark dropped me off and took my phone. He took my phone to call Adam 4 times. Mark ended up coming back. I drove, and I messed up there.
Ask me about that.
And he asked me to go outside with him to talk. I started to walk over to go outside, but he made a comment. I turned around and went back.
I can't remember what he said, but I was like, there's no way I'm going outside by myself with him.
He went to the other side of the bar and talked to someone he knew. My friends were going to leave, and I told them I'd be fine, and we were going, and went back by Mark. Everything was okay. He texted me at 8:52 to say, I'm so sorry. I love you. Shortly after that, we left to go home. He brought up Terry again and got really mad. We argued all the way home. When we got home, I told him I was leaving. He said he wanted to get his things out of the truck. He was on the passenger side with the door open, and he got mad and started running over to my door.
Running, yeah, he ran over to, yeah.
Running over to my door. When he got to my door, I took off. His door was still open, meaning the passenger door that he was getting his stuff out. I turned right out of the driveway and it closed. I drove.
One thing I forgot about when I was telling you this is I actually pulled into a subdivision to see if Mark was following me.
Okay.
And this car came up, and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be a cop, it's going to be a cop, and I'm going to get in trouble here because I've been drinking. So then I just like waited for it, and this car just pulled right into their driveway, right into their garage. So some white SUV. And I mean, I'm sure I can go exactly where I was.
I drove to a subdivision down the street, pulled over to see if Mark was chasing me.
There was a car behind me.
A white truck pulled by me and went to their garage. From there, I started looking for hotels. I located Comfort Inn. I went there, but they didn't have any rooms. I went online to get a room at Fort Baymont. When I got there, they stated I rented a room for Saturday night. They didn't have any rooms available. I drove to Woodman's, used the bathroom, and then back to a lot to park and sleep across from Baymont.
Right across, there's like something. I don't even know what it is. It's like a vacant.
Yep.
Well, I don't think it's vacant. I think it's a business, but
It's a little dumpster place, I think.
I don't know.
After a couple hours, it was cold. I got in the front seat and drove home. I went inside and went to sleep on the couch. I didn't want to upset Mark by coming home, so I got up and went upstairs to sleep. In the morning, used the bathroom and walked down to our bedroom. I wanted to confront Mark
I was like, you're going to apologize.
and give an apology.
Do you want me to do 1, 2, 3, 4 for you?
He wasn't in the room. I went outside to see his car was in the garage, thinking he went out with friends last night. That's when I saw him laying in the snowbank. I went inside and called the police. They asked me to lay him on his back, but he was too heavy for me. Anything you didn't, going through that, and you didn't put in there that?
Oh, I don't think so. I just forgot that one portion that. This is just so crazy. So crazy.
So on your, what time was it?
You can check my phone.
I know. I can get that. What time, you know what time it was when you, so it was probably before 9 o'clock. You got home or right around 9 o'clock? Because you didn't go to the features for the 9 o'clock?
Nope, we went.
You missed that, so between 9 and 10 o'clock, you think you got home?
Yeah, it was well after 9 o'clock because I remember looking, oh, well, we can't go there now. Because we were still at that.
Still at that bar. Okay. And any approximate idea of what time you think that you would have got?
I can check text messages between Hannah and Adam and calls and stuff because they were worried.
And that should probably be on the video. The time, because your alarms, your cameras were on.
Right.
So that'll show, the cameras will show the time you came in.
For sure.
Time you left. Let's go over real quick notes that I took.
Let me tell you, we just got married in December 29th.
No, I didn't know. Let me, I think our timeline might be, but if we can, I want to see where they're at with the phone, the camera. That might box our times a little bit better, so we can get us better. So, while I get through the batch briefing, I'll, see if we can.
Your Honor, we paused the video at 42:49. It looks like it is just about 15, 20 minutes after noon. I guess I just wanted to take a moment to ask for how we should.
Yeah, I was thinking that. And then I assume that there's how much more on the video, approximately? I don't
An
remember.
hour and 12 minutes.
All right, so let's take a break. Probably makes sense at this point before we get into the longer part of the interview. So again, ladies and gentlemen, please don't talk about the case. We'll have lunch in a couple minutes ready. My hope is it may not take the full half an hour, but hopefully no later than 1:30 before we can bring you in. Otherwise, have a good lunch. We'll see you then. I don't think there's anything. Anything we need to put on the record?
Not from the state.
I don't know if there's something we can do with that sound in between, or if we tried everything. We can do this off the record, but why don't you, if we can, play with it.
The volume up, yeah.
See if we can get it up, yeah.
Oh, yeah.